Hi, I'm Jim Cattrall. I'm the Business Development Manager here at Maretron, and today we're going to introduce you to our new product, MConnect. We're going to talk today about what MConnect is, how you can view it, what it connects to, and how you connect it to your boat's NMEA 2000 system. So let's get started. Okay, so first let's talk about what an MConnect is. So MConnect is actually a web server, and that converts your NMEA 2000 from your boat and transforms that into a graphical user interface that's easy to view and easy to control, easy to understand. We can take two NMEA 2000 networks, two isolated NMEA 2000 networks. We do not bridge the data. But what this means is that you can have a navigational network or you can have a monitoring network, keep them separate, but see the same information on the same page. Okay? We can convert over 400 NMEA 2000 PGNs. So any kind of data from your depth, your GPS, we can convert over 400 different devices from that through this MConnect. It also has power, which is 12 to 24 volts. We do have a RS-232 for future use. We have an RJ45 Ethernet connector, which is how we connect either to one of your favorite MFDs, or you can connect it to a router for wireless integration or for connecting to your internet. We then also on the side, we have a USB port, which is for software updates, but you can also use this to connect a USB to Ethernet adapter, or you can also plug in a 4G dongle to supply internet to the device. One of the reasons why I would use a USB to Ethernet adapter is so that I can have my MFD on my Ethernet network, but then I can have a separate network which is supplying my internet to the MConnect, so that then I can get more features out of the MConnect, which we'll touch on in a little while. Okay, so let's go into the settings menu. Okay, so the first thing you see is settings. And the options in here are you have user demo, which is instance 100, 101, 102. So if you're creating your screens at home or in the office and you don't have a live system connected, I suggest using instance numbers 100, 101, 102 to actually see the data coming through. Once you connect to a live system, then at that point change your instance number to the actual instances on your network. We then have terminal operating mode. This is to do with your vessel's operating mode. So if you have another MConnect on the network, you can actually integrate the two together. So if one turns to vessel underway, the other one will turn to vessel underway. If you have this box unselected. If you have it selected, then the two MConnects would actually remain isolated. You can also use this with an N2K view as well. So if that turns to operating mode, vessel underway, vessel at anchor, then the MConnect will also turn its vessel mode to that as well. The true wind reference is station. So if you are using the MConnect in a stationary location, so maybe the yacht club, you're showing wind information, you would tick this as you don't have a heading sensor to give you the wind direction for that. Auto advances the screens on to the next one every couple of seconds. The settings button, we allow you to move the settings button normally by default in the top right corner, but we allow you to move it around the screen as some MFD manufacturers have different buttons all over the screen, so therefore we allow you to move it so you can access it. We've got sync time with the browser, so if the time on the MConnect is not accurate to the time that you're running and maybe you don't have a GPS antenna connected, then you can actually sync the time for the MConnect to your browser time. This is important when trying to install the VPN, as it will not install if you are showing a date that is of a previous date, anything before. If it's not the accurate date, then the VPN installer will not install the Tailscale VPN. You can choose your time zone, and you can also set the night mode here. So you can turn the night mode on, turn the night mode off, but you can also change and edit the custom colors of what your night mode is. We have an X up in the top right corner. If I press that, it'll take us straight back to the main UI, or the little hamburger menu up in the top left brings us back to the menu screen. I'm going to miss the configuration for the moment, as we'll come back to that. The About in here tells you about the MConnect itself. It gives you the IP addresses that this is connected to. It tells you what its operating mode is under, it gives you the serial number, and it also gives you the software version. So if you know that there's a software version available on the website, check Maretron.com/MConnect. And on there we will put any new software updates up on the website under the Updates tab. Devices, so this is a great place for showcasing what the MConnect is physically connected to. Okay, so if you are connected to a live system, you will see all of the NMEA 2000 devices here. You can filter them out by device, or you can filter them out by PGM. Once you've filtered them out, then you will actually see all of the information that that device is providing, all of the different PGN information. So you would see, if it's GPS, you will see the lat long, you will see the heading, you will see course over ground, speed over ground, all of this information you'll see here. So you can actually troubleshoot, you can understand if the informations are live on the network, or if there's a problem between the MConnect and the network, or if the problem's on your network. You can also here check what the instance numbers are. So when you are designing screens, you can actually come back here to see what the instance number is that you want to connect to. We then have Diagnostics tab. This is really mainly for Maretron troubleshooting. So in here we look at the different browsers that you're looking at. We look at, this is where we would ask you if there's a problem with the speed, or if there's a problem with it working on a browser, we would ask you to come in here and download a file from this, which will give us some diagnostic information so that we can help you diagnose any problems that you're having. The Screens tab, so this, if you've either by accident not added navigation buttons on your screen, so if you have multiple different screens and you have a button for each screen, if you've forgotten to either put one on, you can come here and select which screen you want to jump to. So you'd select it and then you press go. Or you can also have a screen that you wouldn't necessarily want people to navigate to, so you don't have a button that it's going to. That way you can come into the menu, you can select it from here and go to it. So it almost hides the screen away. We also then have the VPN. This is where you would start your VPN from, and this is where you would log into your MConnect remotely. So long as the MConnect has got internet, and in this instance we've got the 4G router plugged, the 4G dongle plugged into the USB port. So this is providing my MConnect with internet whilst connected to a browser through the Ethernet port. With that I can start the VPN up, and I can access the MConnect fully over the internet from another device that is also on the same VPN account. Okay, so back to the configuration. So in here, you've got the active configuration. So this is the configuration, this is where you would choose which configuration you want to view while looking at your MConnect screens. The default configuration, so this is the configuration that the MConnect is going to start up in by default. But it is also the configuration that when you build your configurations, if you've got actions and conditions within your configuration, those actions and conditions are connected to that configuration. So you would want to make sure that if you want those conditions and actions to actually happen, you want to make sure that that configuration is selected here within the default. We've then got Manage Configuration. So in here we've got the Edit, which will take us to the Edit tool. We've got Export, so we can export a configuration, and that will do it to your downloads file on your PC. You can import a new configuration, and the way that you import is that you import it from your PC. So you do not import through the USB port. The USB port is purely for software updates and or connected to the internet. The import comes directly from your computer that you're connected to. You can also set a password. Now, a word of warning on the password: if you forget your password, then you will need to send the MConnect back to Maretron to have a complete new image loaded onto it. When we put a new image on it, you will lose your configuration. So when you've built your configuration, please export and save that configuration somewhere safe. If you do set a password, the reason for the password, and if you do, it means that it will lock the ability for anybody to be able to access the editor, but it will also hide the ability to be able to export a configuration and or import a configuration. Alright, so let's have a look at the editor. So we're going to select the edit configuration, and when you first open up the edit configuration, this is what you are going to see. So the first thing to understand is the layout of the screen and what you're actually looking at. So the first thing is you've got a row of buttons across the top, starting with display mode. This will take you straight back to the default configuration, the UI, the home screen. The image manager, this will show you all of the images that you have downloaded to your MConnect. And it will also show you what configuration they're actually being used on. And if you're not using those images, then you can delete them from your list. You can also upload new images from here, but the easiest way to do that we'll show you again in a little second. When you're creating the components, you will upload the images at that point. Documentation. In the documentation tab, you've got a selection where you can see all of the different components, all of the different PGNs that we see. If you click on this one, for instance, action button 1 by 1, it will tell you exactly what that action button is and what it does. If you choose something that is actually an NMEA 2000 data point, then it will show you what you're expecting or what we are expecting to see from that selection, as well as it tells you the PGN number that we expect to see. So again, going back to that devices tab, you can check on your devices tab to make sure that you're seeing this PGN, and then you can map it to this parameter. You can also create an MConnect parameter file. So if you click on this using a PC, and I would suggest using a PC or a Mac, something with a large enough screen when using the editor, although you can use it in an MFD, with the such smaller screens, it's going to be a much faster and much better experience via a computer. So once you've downloaded this MConnect parameter screen, you can open that up. It will open up in a new tab, and here now you've got it where you can save it, you can go in, you can click, and you can see all of the different, again, all of the different values of each parameter, what we expect to see, and also what components are available for that parameter. Okay. Then we've got the configuration button, which brings us back to the configuration screen. Or we do also have the telemetry. So in the MConnect, we've built telemetry straight into this. So with this, you can add as many parameters as you wish, and that will send them up to the Maretron telematics cloud, which you would need to sign up for, and you can sign up for that at mconnect.com. Once you've done that, all of these parameters will be sent up to the cloud, and you can view it via a map or via all of the information via the telematics cloud. We also have a dark or light screen view mode button. So that's again across the top. Then just under that, you'll see that we've got an undo, redo, save and cancel changes. Those are pretty self-explanatory once we're going through the editing of the thing. Then on the left-hand side, you'll notice that we've got configurations. This is where you will select a configuration, or you will add a configuration, or you will delete a configuration from here. Once you've got a configuration, then it will show you the screens, the components that are on that screen. You'll see a list of components, and then also your list of switch groups. So switch groups are something that you can create a switch group, so exactly what it sounds like. You can create one component, which is a push button, and you can control several different circuits. You can control the dimming value of those circuits, you can control whether they're on state or off state, and you can also add timers to that as well. You've also got vessel data, so this is where you can name some of the custom vessel modes. So for instance, underway, at anchor, on board, I've left the boat, I'm at home. So these you can name whatever you want them to do, and then at certain points, depending on what your position is, you can actually action those, which then can action other things to happen. We then also have actions and conditions. So actions and conditions, with these, you can actually create an action based on a condition. So for instance, a condition may be that your engine room has reached a certain temperature, and once it's reached that certain temperature, you may want to create an action that turns the circuit breaker on, which effectively turns your engine room fans on. And then once the temperature's dropped below an acceptable temperature, then you can select another action that will turn the circuit breaker off. We have several different actions that you can choose from. Some are reset counters, reset timers. You can jump to a certain screen. So if a condition happens, jump to that screen to see more information. You can set the vessel mode, you can toggle a breaker on or off, or you can turn a breaker off or just turn a breaker on. So that's actions and conditions. If we go back to our configuration, now you see in the center, this is where we're actually going to start to build our configuration. So this is what you're going to see, and this is what you're going to edit, and this is where you're going to place all your different components. And then on the right hand side is where you're going to be able to program, or this is where you'll get the menu for all of your different components. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit new, we're going to create a new configuration, and in this one we're going to call it example. Add. Okay, so once I've added that configuration, you'll notice now that my screen has changed. You'll notice I've got this box section. You'll also notice that it's already given me, so it's given me a screen. I've got the configuration name up here, example, and I've also got the new screen up here. It's put a text component on the screen, and you'll notice now that this right hand side has started to populate. So what we're first going to do is we're going to hit the screen. Now, a couple of things here is you can hit the plus minus button here, and you can expand as many of these as you want by hitting the plus minus button. But if you just hit the text, then it will just expand that particular one and it will close all of the other ones, just making it easier to work. You can also drag these up and down to give you more room to be able to show more stuff. You can also drag the sides out, making your screen larger, depending on what it is that you're trying to do. So just whatever feels most comfortable with you. With the screen now, so we're going to select the screen, we're going to edit the screen, we're going to name this screen, and as this is going to be our home page, I'm going to label this home. And I'm going to select the width and height in pixels. Now, as default, it will load a page that is 1280 by 800, which if you're using a Raymarine 12-inch MFD, perfect pixels. If you're using a Garmin, it would be 1280 by 720. But look at your manufacturer's screen, look at what pixel rating they want. You can also build screens for a full page, so 1280 by 800, but you can also build screens for a split screen, so 1280 by 400, and we'll show you that now in a second. I'm going to leave it at 1280 by 800. You can now choose the colour of your background. If you want a colour, or if you don't want a colour, you can choose none. You can also, if you wish, you can upload an image. Once we've done that, we can close this off. So now you see we've got a screen that's named home. Now what we would do is we would add, or in fact with this one, we will edit this component and we will give it a title. So this would be the home screen. Okay, and then what I would do is I would add another component, and in this example I'm going to choose engine engine temperature, and in this one I'm going to choose a gauge. So I'm going to put my gauge there. You can see I can drag and drop this gauge, and I can also make it larger or smaller depending on what I want it to look like and where I want it to be. And I can also set this gauge up. So for instance, next I would choose the instance number, and in this example I'm just going to choose one of my example instances, which is instance 100. Then I would choose whether I want it in degrees Fahrenheit or degrees Celsius. Then I can choose my minimum and my maximum for this gauge. So for instance, 220 degrees Fahrenheit would be my maximum, and maybe my minimum would be 100 degrees. It just depends on what the resolution you want that gauge to be. Then you can go in and you can start to change up, and you can say where you want your red. So for instance, in this one, I would want my red maximum to be 195 to 220, and I may want my high yellow to be 190 to 195. So now you can see we're starting to create this gauge so that we know what is good and what is bad. And then at that point we can easily see if we get into trouble with the temperature. We can also give this device a label, or you can choose the label from the device itself. So if you've set your components up and it's got a label, you can use that. Or you can actually create a label and say engine temp. Okay, then we can add another one. We can bring that across, and we can say that this one is going to be tank, and this is going to be tank level component, and in this one we're going to use a bar graph, and there's our tank. And again, you would set it up in the same way. What instance number? You can set your reds and yellows based on that, and then we can add another, which would be engine tachometer. And for this one, I want a gauge. There's my engine tachometer. And again, I would set this up with the instance number. And then I would choose my maximum RPM, 5,000. And then I would choose my my low would be 3,500 to 4,000, and then red would be 4,000 to 5,000. Okay, so that's my RPM setup, my engine temperature, and my fuel level. The one last thing that we can show you in this simple example is if we add a switch, breaker switch component, and in this example I'm going to put a push button 1 by 1 and 100, 1, and this is going to be my engine fan. Okay, so that I'm going to have down in here in my bottom corner, and there we go. So now once I've built my screen, I'm going to hit save, which will now save all of my changes. If I wish to add another screen, I would just add another screen, and so on. Once I go back to my display mode, here's my engine page. So I've got engine temperature, engine RPM, fuel tank, and I've also can control my, my engine room fans.